The medical frigate floated silently in deep space, its white hull reflecting the light of distant stars. Inside, Dr. Taejin Park stood in the surgical bay, carefully stitching together the torn membrane of a Quellan trader's respiratory sac. His hands moved with practiced precision, each movement calm and deliberate. The Quellan made a gurgling sound that the translator rendered as gratitude. "Stay still," Taejin said softly. "Almost done." Around him, the other doctors watched with barely concealed amazement. The Quellan had been declared unsavable by 3 different physicians. Their biology was too alien, too fragile. But Taejin had spent 6 hours studying their anatomy, comparing it to similar species and improvising a solution. That was what humans did best. They refused to accept impossible. The surgery finished successfully. As the Quellan was wheeled to recovery, Taejin stripped off his gloves and headed to his quarters. He was exhausted. 14-hour shifts were becoming normal aboard the Hippocrates. The galaxy had more sick people than doctors willing to treat the difficult cases. His door slid open with a soft hiss. The small room was Spartanly furnished with a bed, a desk, and a viewport showing the endless stars. Taejin collapsed onto his bed, ready to sleep for the next 10 hours. Then his communication terminal chimed with an urgent priority signal. He groaned and sat up, pressing the accept button. The screen flickered to life, showing an unfamiliar symbol, a spiral of crystalline shards surrounding a brilliant star. The message was heavily encrypted, routing through multiple secure channels. Whoever sent this wanted absolute privacy. "Dr. Taejin Park," a synthesized voice spoke in perfect Korean. "Your services are required by the Royal House of Veltis. A shuttle will arrive at your location in 6 hours. Compensation will be substantial. Refusal is not advised." The transmission ended abruptly. Taejin stared at the blank screen, his exhaustion forgotten. The Royal House of Veltis. He knew that name. Everyone in the galaxy knew that name. The Veltharian Empire was one of the oldest and most powerful civilizations in known space. Their technology was legendary, their military unmatched, their wealth beyond calculation. They had been traveling the stars when humanity was still learning to make fire, and they wanted him specifically. A human doctor from a species that had only joined the galactic community 40 years ago. Something was very wrong. 6 hours later, Taejin stood in the docking bay as a sleek shuttle arrived. It was beautiful in a way that made human engineering look crude by comparison. The hull seemed to be made of living crystal that shifted colors in the light. When the door opened, 2 tall figures emerged wearing ornate armor that hummed with barely contained energy. "Dr. Park," one of them said, "please come with us. His Majesty is waiting." The journey to Veltis Prime took 3 days through hyperspace lanes that civilian ships rarely accessed. Taejin spent the time reading everything he could find about Veltharian biology. They were humanoid in basic shape, but taller and more slender than humans. Their most distinctive feature was their bioluminescent skin, which could glow in patterns reflecting their emotions and health. They lived for centuries and possessed technology that seemed like magic to younger species. But they were also intensely private and proud. They rarely asked outsiders for help with anything, let alone medical issues. The fact that they had contacted a human doctor suggested desperation. When the shuttle finally dropped out of hyperspace, Taejin pressed his face to the viewport and gasped. Veltis Prime hung before them like a jewel. The entire planet seemed to shimmer with crystalline structures that caught and reflected sunlight. Cities of impossible beauty covered the surface, connected by bridges of solid light. Orbital platforms ringed the world, each one a masterpiece of engineering and art. They landed at the Royal Palace, a structure so vast and intricate that Taejin struggled to comprehend its scale. The guards led him through corridors of polished crystal that showed reflections of reflections, creating infinite depths. Other Veltharians stopped to stare at him as he passed. He could see the patterns of light flickering beneath their skin, colors shifting in what he guessed was curiosity mixed with disdain. Finally, they reached a massive door that opened silently into a throne room. King Vora sat upon a seat of woven light, his presence commanding despite the obvious weight of worry on his features. His skin glowed with a deep blue that Taejin's research suggested indicated grief. Beside the king stood an older Veltharian in elaborate robes, his expression openly hostile. "Dr. Park." King Vora's voice resonated through the chamber without amplification. "Thank you for coming. I apologize for the dramatic summons, but time is critical." Taejin bowed respectfully. Your Majesty, I'm honored.
How can I help?
The king's glow dimmed further. My daughter, Princess Nari, is dying. She has been unconscious for 3 weeks. Our finest physicians cannot determine the cause, let alone cure it. I was told that humans have an unusual talent for solving medical mysteries that others consider hopeless. You are the best of your kind. You are her last chance. The hostile Veltharian stepped forward. Your Majesty, this is foolishness. A human. Their medical knowledge is primitive compared to ours. Dr. Korath, your chief physician, has served the royal family for 2 centuries. If I cannot save the princess, then she cannot be saved. Bringing this newcomer here wastes precious time. Dr. Korath, the king said quietly, but with steel beneath the words. You have had 3 weeks. You have failed. Now we try something different. Taejin could feel the tension in the room. He understood Dr. Korath's position. From a Veltharian perspective, asking a human for help must seem like asking a child to repair a starship. But desperation made people try impossible things, and impossible was where humans excelled. May I see the patient? Taejin asked. King Vora stood and personally led him to the medical wing. They entered a chamber filled with equipment that Taejin could barely understand. In the center, suspended in a translucent stasis field, lay Princess Nari. She appeared to be in her early 20s by human standards, though Taejin knew she could be decades older. Her skin should have glowed with vibrant bioluminescence, but instead it flickered weakly like a dying candle. Her features were peaceful, almost serene, but there was something fundamentally wrong that Taejin could sense even without touching her. What treatments have been attempted? He asked. Dr. Korath rattled off a list of procedures and medications that meant nothing to Taejin. Veltharian medical terminology was completely different from human conventions, but he listened carefully, trying to understand the underlying approach. It seemed they had focused on symptomatic treatment, trying to strengthen her failing systems without understanding why they were failing. May I use my own equipment? Taejin asked. That primitive human technology? Dr. Korath scoffed. What could it possibly reveal that our scanners cannot? Maybe nothing, Taejin admitted. But sometimes a different perspective sees what familiarity misses. King Vora nodded. Use whatever you need. Taejin spent the next 6 hours conducting his examination. His equipment was indeed primitive compared to Veltharian technology, but it measured things differently. While Veltharian scanners focused on energy patterns and quantum states, human medical devices measured electromagnetic fields, chemical compositions, and cellular structures. Different tools revealed different truths. As data accumulated on his portable terminal, Taejin began to see a pattern. The princess's bioluminescence wasn't just fading. It was changing, shifting toward frequencies that didn't match any known Veltharian biological signature. Her cellular structure showed signs of rapid reorganization at the genetic level. This wasn't a disease. It was a transformation. I need access to your medical archives, Taejin said. Specifically historical records about Veltharian genetics before your species achieved spaceflight. Dr. Korath laughed. That was over 10,000 years ago. What could ancient history possibly have to do with a modern medical condition? Taejin looked at King Vora. Your Majesty, I believe I can save your daughter, but I need complete access to those archives, and I need 3 days without interference. I also need one promise. Name it, the king said immediately. When I succeed, Dr. Korath must publicly acknowledge that humans have value in the galactic medical community. Dr. Korath's bioluminescence flared angry red. You arrogant fool. You cannot possibly succeed where I have failed. Then you have nothing to worry about, Taejin replied calmly. Your Majesty? King Vora studied Taejin for a long moment. The human stood there, exhausted from days of travel and hours of examination, facing down the chief physician of the most advanced civilization in the galaxy, with nothing but confidence born from refusing to accept impossible odds. Agreed, the king said. 3 days. All resources at your disposal, and Dr. Korath will assist you. Your Majesty, Korath protested. My daughter's life is more important than pride, King Vora said firmly. Ours or his. Help him, Korath, or at least stay out of his way. As Taejin returned to his examination, he caught a glimpse of Princess Nari's face. Even unconscious and dying, she possessed a serenity that touched something deep in his chest. He would save her, not because a king commanded it, not to prove human worth to skeptical aliens, but because that was what he did. He healed people. The royal archives stretched deeper than Taejin had imagined possible. Crystalline walls held data crystals containing 10,000 years of Veltharian history, each one pulsing softly with stored information. He stood at the entrance, overwhelmed by the sheer volume of knowledge before him. "You will need assistance," a voice said behind him. Taejin turned to find a Veltharian woman watching him with curious amber eyes. Her bioluminescence glowed with warm golden tones, quite different from the cold blues and reds he had seen in the palace. She wore simple scholar's robes rather than court finery. "I'm Hana," she said, "royal librarian and historical researcher. His Majesty assigned me to help you navigate the archives. Though I must admit I'm curious why a human doctor needs ancient history to cure a modern illness." "Because I don't think it is a modern illness," Taejin explained. "Princess Nari's cells are transforming at the genetic level. The pattern suggests reversion, not degradation. Her DNA is trying to become something older." Hana's eyes widened. "That should be impossible. Our species underwent systematic genetic enhancement 6,000 years ago. Every Veltharian carries those modifications now. Reversion would require a recessive genetic combination that almost never occurs," Taejin finished. "But almost never isn't the same as never. Show me records of Veltharian biology before the enhancements." They worked through the night. Hana pulled data crystals from the deepest sections of the archives, records so old they required translation from extinct Veltharian dialects. Ancient medical texts appeared as holographic displays, showing anatomical diagrams of pre-enhancement Veltharians. They had been shorter, stockier, with bioluminescence patterns completely different from modern individuals. They had also possessed abilities that had been lost when their DNA was modified. "Look at this." Hana pointed to a passage describing pre-enhancement Veltharians. They could sense emotional states through bioelectric fields. They could share thoughts through direct physical contact. They were deeply empathic, connected to each other and to living things around them. The genetic enhancements removed these traits. Why would they remove such gifts? Taejin asked. "Because they were considered primitive," Hana said softly. "When our people reached for the stars, they wanted to be logical, efficient, and powerful. Empathy was seen as weakness. Emotional connection was deemed inefficient. So they edited those traits out of our DNA. We became what we are now: advanced, isolated, cold." Taejin studied the data, his mind racing. If Princess Nari's DNA is reverting to this ancient form, then the treatments Dr. Korath used would have made things worse. He was trying to suppress the reversion, force her body to maintain the modern genetic structure. But that's not fighting a disease. That's fighting her own DNA. "So what do?" Hana asked. "We let the transformation complete," Taejin said. "But we do it safely, guiding her body through the process instead of fighting it." Hana's bioluminescence flickered with something that might have been fear. "No Veltharian physician would dare attempt such a thing. If the reversion goes wrong, she won't just die. She might become something neither ancient nor modern, something broken." "I know," Taejin said quietly. "But if we do nothing, she dies anyway. At least this gives her a chance." They spent the next day preparing. Taejin designed a procedure that combined human medical techniques with Veltharian technology in ways that neither species had attempted before. He would use human-developed nanites, microscopic machines that could work at the cellular level, to guide and protect Nari's transforming cells. Simultaneously, he would use Veltharian bioresonance technology to synchronize the transformation across her entire body, ensuring no part changed faster than the rest. Dr. Korath, when informed of the plan, declared it insane. "You're going to accelerate the very process that's killing her?" he demanded. "This is murder disguised as medicine." "This is the only option left," Taejin countered. "Your treatments prolonged her suffering but couldn't cure her. We try this, or we watch her die slowly." King Vora, standing between them, looked at his dying daughter suspended in stasis. "How certain are you, Dr. Park?" Taejin wanted to lie to give false confidence, but he respected the king too much for that. "I'm not certain at all, Your Majesty. But my research and instincts tell me this is the right path. In human medicine, we have a saying: when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras. Look for common explanations before rare ones, but sometimes, rarely, it actually is a zebra. Princess Nari is that rare case, and only a rare solution will save her." The king closed his eyes. "Proceed." The surgical chamber was prepared with equipment from both human and Veltharian medical science. Taejin had only Hana to assist him. Dr. Korath refused to participate, though the king ordered him to observe. If the humans' mad experiment succeeded, Korath needed to witness it. If it failed, he would document the failure. They lowered Nari from stasis onto the surgical platform. Without the field sustaining her, her condition deteriorated rapidly. Her already weak bioluminescence faded further. Her breathing became shallow. Alarms sounded as her vital signs dropped. "We're losing her," Hana said urgently. "Not yet," Taejin replied, forcing calm into his voice even as his heart raced. "Start the nanite injection." He had programmed the nanites with instructions based on the ancient Veltharian genetic code. They flowed into Nari's bloodstream, millions of microscopic machines spreading throughout her body. On the holographic display, Taejin watched them begin their work, identifying transforming cells and protecting them from the shock of rapid change. Bioresonance field. Now, he instructed. Hana activated the Veltharian device. A field of pure energy enveloped Nari, vibrating at frequencies matched to her cellular rhythm. The transformation began to synchronize. Cells throughout her body started changing in harmony rather than chaotic isolation. But it wasn't enough. The change was too violent, too fast. Nari's body convulsed. Blood vessels burst under her skin. Her heart rhythm became erratic. "She's crashing," Hana said, fighting to keep her voice steady. Taejin stared at the monitors, his mind working frantically. He had anticipated problems, but not this level of trauma. The ancient DNA was awakening too quickly, fighting against 6,000 years of genetic modification. It was like trying to unbuild a house while people still lived inside. Then he remembered something from his research. Ancient Veltharians could share bioelectric fields through touch. They could support each other's life energy in times of crisis. Modern Veltharians had lost that ability, but humans had something similar. Human nervous systems generated bioelectric fields that could influence heart rhythms, could synchronize with other living beings through physical contact. It was a desperate idea, possibly a fatal one, but Nari was dying right now and desperate was all he had left. Hana increased the bioresonance field to maximum, Taejin ordered, and lower the safety barriers. "That could kill you both," Hana protested. "Do it." Taejin placed his hands directly on Nari's chest, over her heart. The bioresonance field engulfed them both, and he felt a shock of connection that defied description. Her life energy was chaos, transforming cells screaming in confusion and pain. He poured his own bioelectric field into her, using his steady human heartbeat to anchor her failing one. The pain was incredible. It felt like his nerves were on fire, like every cell in his body was being torn apart and rebuilt. He could feel Nari's transformation as if it were his own, sense the DNA unwinding and rewinding into ancient patterns. Through the connection, he guided the change, his human adaptability helping her Veltharian cells find their new configuration. Hours passed. Taejin lost track of time, lost track of everything except the rhythm of Nari's transformation. His hand stayed locked on her chest, feeding his life energy into hers, refusing to let her fade. Hana monitored them both, adjusting the bioresonance field, keeping them balanced on the knife's edge between healing and death. Finally, after 18 hours, something shifted. The chaos smoothed. The transformation stabilized. Nari's cells found their new pattern and locked into it. Her bioluminescence surged back to life, but different than before. The light was warmer, more vibrant, pulsing with patterns that hadn't been seen in Veltharian biology for 6,000 years. Her eyes opened. They were the same amber color as Hana's, but they held a depth of awareness that made Taejin catch his breath. She looked at him with those ancient eyes, and he felt her consciousness brush against his through the bioelectric connection still linking them. "You saved me," she whispered, her voice carrying harmonics that resonated in his chest. "You brought me back from darkness." "But how? You're human. Your biofield shouldn't be compatible with mine." Taejin tried to answer, but his strength finally gave out. He collapsed beside the surgical platform, his hands sliding away from her chest. The last thing he saw before unconsciousness claimed him was King Vora, rushing into the chamber, tears streaming down his face, his bioluminescence blazing with joy, and Dr. Korath standing in the doorway, staring at the impossible thing a human doctor had just achieved. When Taejin woke 3 days later, he found himself in a luxurious recovery room, His body ached in ways he hadn't thought possible, but he was alive. The royal garden was unlike anything Taijin had seen before. Trees of living crystal grew toward a sky filled with 3 moons, their branches chiming softly in the breeze. Flowers that existed half in normal space and half in some other dimension bloomed in impossible colors. Water flowed upward in fountains that defied gravity, creating floating pools that reflected starlight. Princess Nari walked beside him, her footsteps silent on the path of white stone. Her bioluminescence had settled into a steady glow of soft gold and amber, colors that marked her as different from every other Veltharian. 3 weeks had passed since her recovery, and she had spent much of that time with Taijin, learning about human medicine and teaching him about the abilities her transformation had awakened. During the procedure, she began, her voice carrying that strange harmonic quality it now possessed. When our bioelectric fields merged, I saw into you more deeply than you know. Ancient Veltharians could sense emotions and surface thoughts through touch, but what I have goes beyond that. For 18 hours, your essence and mine were intertwined. I saw your memories, your dreams, your fundamental nature, and I saw something remarkable. Taijin felt uncomfortable under such scrutiny. What did you see? You carry a mutation in your DNA, Nari said. It's dormant, unexpressed, but powerful. Most humans don't have it, perhaps 1 in 10 million. Your mutation grants potential for abilities that your species hasn't discovered yet. Enhanced healing, extended lifespan, and something more. Something that allowed you to merge your biofield with mine when that should have been impossible. I don't understand, Taijin said. Are you saying I'm not fully human? No, Nari assured him quickly. You're entirely human. But humans are young as a species. You're still evolving, still unlocking potentials hidden in your genetic code. What I saw in you is a glimpse of what humanity might become in another 1,000,000 years. Except you don't have to wait. I can activate your dormant potential now. They stopped beside one of the upward flowing fountains. Nari turned to face him directly, her amber eyes intense. The transformation I underwent awakened ancient memories coded into Veltharian DNA. I remember things my species knew 6,000 years ago. One of those memories is a gift my ancestors could bestow on worthy allies. A bioresonance bonding. I can activate your dormant genes, unlock abilities that sleep within you. You would gain enhanced healing, allowing you to recover from injuries in hours instead of weeks. Extended lifespan, potentially centuries, and quantum conscious awareness, the ability to perceive bioelectric fields and energy patterns in living things. Taijin's mind reeled. What she described sounded like something from fantasy, not medicine. Yet he had experienced a taste of it during Nari's procedure, that moment of connection, sensing her life energy, guiding her transformation through pure awareness. It had felt natural despite being impossible. Why would you give me such a gift? He asked. Because you saved my life, Nari said simply. Because you risked your own existence to heal mine. Because you represent the best of what humanity can be, and I want to help you become even more. But also, she hesitated, her glow flickering. Also because you now carry something precious. During our bonding, some of my transformed DNA integrated with yours at the quantum level. You hold within you a pure sample of ancient Veltharian genetics. If something happened to me, if my transformation was lost, you could help restore it. You've become a living link between what my people were and what we are now. That sounds like a burden, not a gift, Taijin said. It's both, Nari admitted, which is why the decision must be yours freely. If you accept, you'll be changed fundamentally. You'll no longer be entirely human in the way you were born. Some of your people might reject you. Some of mine might see you as an abomination, a human carrying sacred Veltharian heritage. Your life will become complicated in ways you cannot predict. King Vora emerged from between the crystal trees. The king had been listening, Taijin realized. This conversation was too important to happen without witness. Dr. Park, the king said gravely, you should understand the full implications. If you accept this gift, you'll be bound to my daughter in ways beyond normal friendship. The bioresonance bonding creates a permanent link between your life energies. You'll always be able to sense each other across any distance. Her emotions will touch yours. Yours will touch hers. Some might call it beautiful. Others might call it imprisonment. I don't want to trap you, Nari said quickly. If you refuse, I'll understand. You've already given me everything. I'll still be grateful. Taijin looked between them, processing. They were offering him abilities beyond human norm, a connection to an alien princess, and a responsibility to preserve something ancient and precious. The logical choice was to refuse, to return to his simple life as a doctor, treating patients, staying safely human, but he had never chosen the simple path. What would the procedure involve? He asked. Nari's glow brightened with hope. We would need to be in a bioresonance field together, similar to your surgery but gentler. I would place my hands on your temples and channel energy directly into your nervous system. The activation would take several hours and would be painful. Your body would fight the change at first. Dormant genes activating feel like fire in your blood, but I would be with you through every moment, guiding you as you guided me. And after? Taejin asked. What would I become? You would be yourself, Nari said firmly, but enhanced. The abilities I described would develop gradually over weeks or months. You'd need to learn to control them, to understand your new senses. I would teach you, help you adapt. You wouldn't be alone in this. Taejin walked to the edge of the upward flowing fountain and looked at his reflection in the floating water. He saw a tired human doctor, someone who had spent his life fixing broken things, refusing to accept impossible odds. If he accepted Nari's gift, that reflection would eventually change. His eyes might glow like hers. His presence might radiate energy visible to certain kinds of perception. He would become something unprecedented in human history. There's something else you should know, King Vora added. News of your success has spread beyond Velthus Prime. The galactic medical community is buzzing with reports of a human doctor who achieved what no one else could. Earth's government has been monitoring these reports. They've requested your immediate return for debriefing. They want to understand what happened here, and they're not entirely pleased that one of their citizens underwent unreported interactions with alien technology and biology. Are they concerned about contamination? Taejin asked. Among other things, the king said carefully. Some factions on Earth view genetic modification with suspicion. They might see you accepting Nari's gift as a betrayal of your species. Others might see it as an evolutionary opportunity. The politics could become complicated. Everything is already complicated, Taejin said. The question is whether complicated is worth it. He thought about his life before coming to Velthus Prime, the endless patience, the impossible cases, the satisfaction of healing those others had given up on. He loved that work, but he had always felt limited by human medical knowledge, frustrated by the boundaries of what current science could achieve. What Nari offered would let him push those boundaries further than ever, and there was something else. A feeling he barely wanted to acknowledge. During those 18 hours of connection, he had felt truly understood for the first time in his life. Nari had seen into his deepest self and hadn't turned away. She had seen his doubts, his fears, his driving need to heal others even at cost to himself, and she had still chosen to offer him this gift. I accept, Taejin said quietly. Nari's bioluminescence flared brilliant gold. Are you certain? Once begun, the process cannot be stopped halfway. You must commit fully. I spent 18 hours committed to saving your life, Taejin reminded her. I can commit to this. King Vora nodded slowly. Then we will prepare the ceremony. It should be witnessed by the royal court, recorded for history. What you're about to do has never been done before. A human accepting ancient Veltharian genetic awakening. You'll be unique in all the galaxy. One more thing, Taejin said. I want Dr. Korath present. If this works, he needs to see it. Needs to understand that different species can learn from each other, enhance each other without either one losing their essential nature. The king smiled. Korath has been humbled by your success, but yes, his presence would be fitting. Very well. Tomorrow evening in the royal temple, we will perform the bonding ceremony. That night, Taejin couldn't sleep. He stood in his quarters, staring out at the crystalline city below. Somewhere down there, millions of Veltharians lived their long lives, unaware that tomorrow a human would receive a gift their species had forgotten existed. He wondered what they would think. Would they see him as honored? As contaminated? As something new and hopeful? A gentle knock on his door interrupted his thoughts. When he opened it, Hana stood there carrying a data crystal. I thought you might want this, she said, handing it to him. It's everything I could find about the bonding ceremony in ancient texts. The rituals, the meaning, the responsibilities it creates. You should understand fully what you're accepting. The shuttle ride back to Earth orbit felt longer than the journey to Velthus Prime, though it took the same 3 days. Taejin spent most of the trip learning to control his new abilities. His enhanced senses picked up everything: the pilot's nervous tension, the faint bioelectric fields of bacteria in the air filtration system, even the subtle energy patterns of plants in the life support hydroponics bay. It was overwhelming until Nari taught him, through their bond, how to filter and focus. Think of it like learning to see after being blind. Her voice whispered in his mind across the vast distance between them. At first, all light is blinding. With practice, you learn to focus on what matters. Her presence in his thoughts was comforting, not intrusive, just there, a warm awareness at the edge of his consciousness. He could feel her concern for him, her hope that Earth would accept what he had become. He wasn't as optimistic. The shuttle docked at Earth's primary orbital station, a massive structure that served as humanity's gateway to the stars. Military ships flanked the civilian docks, their weapon systems powered down but present. A message to any watching alien vessels: Earth protected its own. Guards in full combat armor met Taijin at the airlock. Not the casual security he expected, but serious military personnel treating him like a potential threat. "Dr. Park," the squad leader said curtly, "please come with us. The tribunal is waiting." They escorted him through corridors that should have felt like coming home but instead felt alien. Other humans stared at him as he passed, some with curiosity, others with fear. Word of his transformation had spread. The galactic news networks had covered the ceremony extensively. Every human with access to interstellar communications knew that one of their own had accepted alien genetic modification. The tribunal chamber was a large room designed to intimidate. A panel of 5 officials sat behind a raised desk, 2 from the Medical Council, 2 from Military Intelligence, and 1 from Earth's Genetic Purity Commission, a controversial agency that monitored human genetic integrity. In the observer section, Taijin spotted his mentor, Dr. Bora Kim. She was an older woman who had trained him back when he first joined the Galactic Medical Corps. Her presence gave him hope. At least someone here might speak in his defense. Dr. Taijin Park, the lead tribunal member, began, her voice cold and formal. "You stand before this panel to answer questions regarding your unauthorized genetic modification. Under Earth law, any permanent alteration to human DNA must be approved by the Genetic Oversight Committee. You bypassed this requirement. Explain yourself." Taijin stood straight, refusing to show the nervousness churning in his stomach. "I made a medical decision. Princess Nari offered me a gift that would enhance my ability to heal and save lives. I accepted. There was no time to request permission, and frankly, I didn't think I needed permission to make choices about my own body. Your body ceased being your own when you joined the Earth Medical Corps," the military intelligence officer said sharply. "You represent humanity in the galactic community. Your genetic integrity is a matter of security. Who knows what hidden programming the Veltharians might have inserted into your DNA? You could be a Trojan horse, a biological weapon waiting to activate." "That's absurd," Taijin protested. "The bonding ceremony has been documented for thousands of years. It's not a weapon. It's a gift of trust between allies. Or that's what they want you to believe," the Genetic Purity Commissioner said. His name was Director Kang, and his reputation for xenophobia was well known. "Dr. Park, you allowed aliens to fundamentally alter what makes you human. You've contaminated yourself with foreign DNA. How can we trust that you're still capable of putting human interests first?" "Because my interests have always been about healing people, human or otherwise," Taijin said, his voice rising despite his efforts to stay calm. "I became a doctor to save lives. The abilities I gained make me better at that. Why is that a threat?" "Because you're no longer one of us," Director Kang said bluntly. "You're something other, something hybrid, and we don't know what that means for humanity's future." Dr. Bora Kim stood up from the observer section. "May I speak on behalf of the defendant?" The lead tribunal member nodded reluctantly. "Dr. Kim, you may address the panel." Bora stepped forward, her expression fierce. "I've known Taijin Park for 15 years. He's one of the finest doctors I've ever trained. His success rate with impossible cases is unprecedented. He doesn't achieve this through luck or alien contamination. He achieves it through skill, determination, and a refusal to accept defeat. The abilities he gained from Princess Nari aren't foreign contamination. They're an evolution of potential that already existed in his DNA. The Veltharians simply activated what was dormant. If anything, he's more fully human now, not less." "That's a philosophical argument, not a medical one," the medical council representative said. Dr. Park's genetic structure has been fundamentally altered. We need to understand the implications. What if these changes are hereditary? What if he has children? Would they be human or something else? I don't know, Taijin admitted. But humans have been modifying themselves since we discovered medicine. We use prosthetics, genetic therapies, neural implants. Where do we draw the line between acceptable modification and unacceptable contamination? The line is drawn at alien DNA, Director Kang said firmly. Human modifications are acceptable. Alien integration is not. Even if that integration saves lives? Taijin challenged. Even if it makes me better at my job of healing people? Even then, Kang said. Because once we start accepting alien genetic material, we begin the process of losing our identity as a species. In a few generations, there might not be any pure humans left, just hybrids, mongrels, things that used to be human but aren't anymore. The tribunal room erupted in arguments. Some observers agreed with Kang. Others shouted him down, calling his views outdated and dangerous. The panel struggled to restore order. In the chaos, Taijin felt something through his bond with Nari. Danger. Hostile intent focused on him with lethal precision. His enhanced senses picked up a spike in adrenaline from someone in the crowd, the subtle shift in posture that preceded violence. He turned just as a man in civilian clothes pulled a plasma pistol from inside his jacket. The weapon was small, easy to conceal but deadly at close range. The man's face was twisted with hatred. Die, alien lover, the man screamed, leveling the weapon at Taijin. Time seemed to slow. Taijin's enhanced awareness processed everything in crystalline detail. The man's finger tightening on the trigger. The weapon's energy cell charging. The trajectory that would send plasma directly into Taijin's chest. He moved without thinking, his enhanced reflexes carrying him sideways faster than human normal. The plasma bolt scorched the air where he had been standing, slamming into the wall behind the tribunal panel. Guards rushed forward, but Taijin was already moving toward the shooter, driven by instinct to neutralize the threat. He grabbed the man's wrist, and the contact triggered his new abilities. Bioelectric fields connected, and suddenly Taijin could feel the shooter's emotional state. Rage, yes, but also fear, terror of change, of the unknown, of a future where humanity might lose its pure form. The man wasn't evil. He was scared. Taijin could have broken the man's wrist easily. His enhanced strength made it trivial. Instead, he gently but firmly took the weapon and pushed the man toward the guards. He's scared, Taijin said quietly as guards restrained the shooter. He sees me as a threat to everything he knows. I'm not angry at him. I understand. The attempted assassination changed everything. News footage of Taijin's impossibly fast dodge, his gentle restraint of the attacker, his compassionate response spread across Earth's networks within hours. Public opinion began to shift. People saw not a contaminated hybrid, but a doctor who had gained abilities he used to protect others, even those who tried to kill him. But the tribunal wasn't moved by public opinion. After a week of closed deliberations, they delivered their verdict. Dr. Taijin Park, the lead judge announced. This panel finds that while you violated genetic modification protocols, your actions were not malicious. However, your altered status presents concerns we cannot ignore. Therefore, we rule as follows. You are cleared of criminal charges, but your medical license to practice on Earth or Earth-controlled facilities is hereby revoked. You may not treat human patients until further review. Additionally, you are barred from Earth's surface for a period of no less than 5 years. Taijin felt the words like physical blows. He had saved lives across the galaxy. He had healed an alien princess and brought back abilities her species thought lost forever. And now his own people were banishing him. This is outrageous, Dr. Bora Kim protested. He's done nothing wrong. He made himself other, Director Kang said with grim satisfaction. And others don't belong among pure humans. Let him go live with his alien friends if he loves them so much. Taijin wanted to argue, to fight the decision, but exhaustion overwhelmed him. Through his bond, he felt Nari's fury on his behalf, her desire to come to Earth and defend him. He sent back feelings of calm, of acceptance. Fighting would only make things worse. He left the tribunal chamber in silence, Bora following him. I'm sorry, she said, her voice thick with emotion. I tried to stop this. The medical station floated at the border between human and Veltharian space, a neutral zone where neither government's regulations held absolute authority. It was a new structure, built in just 3 months through a collaboration that would have been impossible before Taijin's transformation. Human engineering combined with Veltharian technology to create something unprecedented. A place dedicated to cross-species medicine without political interference. Taijin stood in the central hub, watching construction crews put finishing touches on the research laboratories. The station was shaped like a flower with 6 petals, each wing dedicated to a different medical specialty. At the center, a garden dome held plants from dozens of worlds, creating an ecosystem that supported multiple types of biology. The whole structure gleamed with the same crystalline beauty as Veltharian architecture, but incorporated the practical durability of human design. "What do you think?" King Vora asked, standing beside him. The Veltharian monarch had traveled personally to oversee the station's completion. "Does it meet your specifications?" "It's more than I imagined," Taijin said honestly. "When you first proposed this idea, I thought it would be a small clinic. This is a full medical university." "Because that's what the galaxy needs," Nari said, joining them. Her bioluminescence had settled into a constant warm glow that made her presence feel like standing near a gentle fire. A place where doctors of all species can learn from each other. Where human intuition meets Veltharian technology, meets the unique approaches of every civilization in known space. You showed us this was possible. Now we make it reality for everyone. 6 months had passed since Taijin's exile from Earth. 6 months of working, with Nari and her father, to establish what they were calling the Sanctuary of Shared Light. The name had been Hana's suggestion, and it fit perfectly. This was a place of healing, of enlightenment, of bringing different kinds of knowledge together to create something brighter than any single source alone. The first class of students would arrive tomorrow. 50 doctors from 20 different species, all volunteering to study cross-species medicine. The selection process had been competitive. Thousands applied, drawn by the promise of learning, techniques that had saved Princess Nari, and by the chance to study under the legendary human doctor who made the impossible routine. Taijin still wasn't comfortable with that reputation, but he was learning to accept it. "There's something I need to tell you," King Vora said, his tone becoming serious. "Earth's government has been sending diplomatic inquiries. They want to establish an official relationship with the sanctuary, send human doctors to train here. They're trying to save face after exiling you, claiming they always supported cross-species medical cooperation." "How diplomatic of them," Taijin said dryly. "Will you accept human students?" Nari asked gently. "I know they hurt you. No one would blame you for refusing." Taijin thought about the data chip Dr. Bora had given him. He had watched every message on it during quiet nights when homesickness felt overwhelming. Patients thanking him for saving their lives, for refusing to give up when other doctors had. Many of those messages came from humans who disagreed with the tribunal's decision, who saw his transformation as something brave rather than something shameful. "Yes," he said finally. "We accept human students. This place is about healing divisions, not creating new ones. If Earth is ready to learn, we'll teach them." King Vora's bioluminescence flickered with approval. "Spoken like a true bridge between worlds. Very well. I'll inform their diplomatic corps." The next day, ships began arriving. Taijin stood in the docking bay as the first group of students disembarked. They came from everywhere. Tall Quilith with their forearms and compound eyes, small Rikani whose bodies existed partially in normal space and partially in quantum dimensions, hulking Vorgan whose stone-like hides made surgery on them notoriously difficult, and yes, humans. 5 human doctors had been selected for the first class, their faces showing a mixture of excitement and nervousness. One of them approached Taijin with obvious awe. She was young, maybe late 20s, with bright eyes and an eager expression. "Dr. Park," she said, bowing respectfully. "I'm Dr. Jiwoo Cho. I've studied all your published cases. Your work on the Quellan respiratory membrane repair was brilliant. When I heard about this opportunity, I applied immediately. Thank you for accepting humans despite everything that happened." Taijin studied her, his enhanced senses reading her emotional state. Genuine admiration, intense curiosity, and a determination that reminded him of himself at that age. "Welcome to the sanctuary, Dr. Cho," he said warmly. "Let me show you around." Over the following weeks, Taijin discovered a talent he hadn't known he possessed: teaching. He could break down complex medical concepts into understandable pieces. could demonstrate techniques with clarity that made students from completely different biological backgrounds grasp principles that crossed species lines. Ji-woo proved to be his star pupil. She absorbed knowledge like a sponge, asked insightful questions, and showed the same intuitive understanding of adaptive medicine that made human doctors so valuable in impossible cases. She didn't have Taijin's enhanced abilities, but she had something equally important: the refusal to accept that any patient was beyond help. "Watch her," Nari commented one day as they observed Ji-woo successfully treating a Rikani patient with a quantum phase infection that most doctors wouldn't even attempt. "She has your gift for seeing solutions where others see only problems. That's not genetic enhancement. That's pure human determination." Taejin felt a swell of pride. "Maybe what I became isn't as important as what I can teach others to be." Enhanced abilities are useful, but the real power is the approach. The willingness to try impossible things. 3 months into the first term, everything changed. A distress signal reached the sanctuary from a distant sector. A quantum plague had emerged, affecting multiple species simultaneously. The infection operated at a subatomic level, disrupting bioelectric fields and causing cellular collapse. It spread through populations faster than conventional medicine could respond. Entire planets were quarantined. Death tolls climbed into the millions. The Galactic Medical Corps sent a desperate request to the sanctuary. They had tried everything. Traditional treatments failed because the plague affected different species in different ways. No single medical approach could combat it. They needed something new, something impossible. Taejin read the report, his enhanced awareness picking up patterns in the data that others missed. The plague wasn't random. It was quantum in nature, yes, but it operated according to predictable rules. Rules that could be exploited if approached correctly. "I need to go there," he told Nari. "I can perceive quantum-level bioelectric fields now. I might be able to see the plague structure, understand how it works. Then we go together," Nari said firmly. "You're not facing this alone." "I'm coming too," Ji-woo announced, having overheard the conversation. "If this is the kind of impossible case that defines careers, I want to learn from the best." Dr. Korath, who had been serving as a visiting lecturer at the sanctuary, stepped forward as well. "As much as it pains me to admit, the human doctor has proven his worth repeatedly. If there's a chance to stop this plague, I will contribute my knowledge. For once, Veltharian pride takes second place to saving lives." Within hours, a team assembled. Taejin, Nari, Ji-woo, Korath, and a dozen other doctors representing different species and medical traditions. They departed for the quarantine zone aboard a medical frigate, carrying equipment from every medical tradition in the sanctuary's arsenal. The plague world was called Hescon, a trading hub that catered to dozens of species. Now it was a nightmare. The streets were empty except for medical response teams in full protective gear. Hospitals overflowed with the sick and dying. The local government had established quarantine zones, but the plague crossed them easily, carried by quantum entanglement rather than physical contact. Taejin's first look at a plague victim confirmed his fears and his hopes. The disease was visible to his enhanced senses as a dark distortion in the victim's bioelectric field, spreading like cracks through glass. It was beautiful in a terrible way, a quantum phenomenon that conventional medicine couldn't even properly detect, let alone treat. "Can you cure this?" Ji-woo asked, watching him study the patient. "Not alone," Taejin admitted. "I can see the plague structure, but creating a cure requires more than vision. We need collaboration. Every species here has medical knowledge that addresses part of this problem. We need to combine them all in perfect coordination." He gathered the team and explained what he had observed. The plague operated on multiple levels simultaneously. It disrupted quantum-level particle interactions, interfered with bioelectric fields, and caused chemical cascade failures in cellular structures. No single treatment could address all 3 levels at once, but different species specialized in different approaches. Veltharians understood bioelectric manipulation. Humans excelled at adaptive chemistry and rapid immunotherapy development. The Rikani, being partially quantum themselves, understood quantum phase medicine. The Quilith had techniques for repairing cellular structures that other species found baffling.